call to order the inaugural meeting of the Police Chiefs Advisory Board. If you would rise for a prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. Heavenly Father, we thank you for all things. We thank you for the very breath of life itself. We thank you for this place and this time that we may serve, and we ask your blessing on our deliberations here tonight, that they may be pleasing in your sight. We ask it all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First off, I'd like to thank all of you for dedicating your very valuable time for this very important work. I'd also like to thank the Chief for his leadership on this endeavor. So tonight, as the inaugural meeting, we'd like to go around, and I'd like to ask each of you to introduce yourselves. We are being broadcast live, so not everyone knows who you are, so we'd like to give the community a little bit of an idea just who you are. So if I could start to my left with you, Debbie.
Okay, my name is Debbie Hall. I'm a lifelong resident of Seaford. I graduated from Seaford High School, and I went away to college in Pennsylvania, and I ended back up in Seaford, marrying a hometown boy from Seaford. My husband and I both own small businesses in the community, and I consider ourselves one of the original still Pine Street citizens that still live on Pine Street, and we love living in Center City and like the diversity of where we live.
Thank you.
My name is Kimberly McGill. My husband and I both pastor a church here in Seaford, Kingdom Empowerment Christian Church. We've been here in the community a little over 12 years, and we just love the outreach to the community. And that, other than saying God in himself told us to come here, that's why we're in Seaford.
Thank you.
I'm Bill Mulvaney. I'm retired Justice of the Peace. I've lived in Seaford 71 of my 73 years. Graduated from Seaford. My wife and I are high school classmates. I'm looking forward to serving with this group, especially in retirement. I got to keep busy.
Hello, everyone. I'm Desiree Moore, and I am a native of Seaford, Delaware. I graduated from the high school as well, moved away for about 15 years and came back. Brought my Baltimore boy back to the country. And my husband and I have served in the community in different capacities, but I guess the longest stint was teaching at Seaford High School. I'm not at the school anymore, but still involved in the community. Whenever we get to have it again, I'm the president of the Eastern Shore Afram Festival, as well as working throughout the community as much as I can. The thing I think I'm proudest of in the last few years is I coordinated a prayer walk in Seaford, in the Nutter Park, and that was very successful. And thank you, Chief, for your help with that. But I'm also anxious to serve.
Excellent. Thank you. I'm going to turn to my far left. Would you
Hi.
please introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Tisha Miller, and I am the pastor of Macedonia AME Church in Seaford, Delaware. So I'm much invested in this community. I've been here a little bit over 7 years. And so not only do I serve as the pastor of Macedonia, but I serve on the board of Habitat for Humanities of Sussex County and First State Community Action. So I just believe in serving our community in various ways, and so I look forward to serving in this capacity as well.
Thank you very much. I would like to note we have a couple of other members who are not with us tonight. They send their regrets and that's Mr. Jeff James and Mrs. Florence Cephas. So my name is Dan Henderson. I serve as a city councilman. I'm also entrusted with the position of vice mayor, and I'm the police and fire liaison for the city. And I relay information between those two departments to the city council, and I also have a public interface as well. So it is truly my honor to serve in this capacity, and I have lofty goals, and it's my hope that we can together feed the chief with actionable information about our community that the police department can use to better serve us. So without further ado, I would like to call on Chief Kraft for a discussion of the advisory board's purpose, its operation, and its community engagement.
Thank you, Dan. Just briefly, obviously, Marshall Kraft. I've lived in Seaford for over 25 years with my family. My wife works here at the school. My son graduated from the high school. And I've been the chief here. It'll be 2 years, May 6th. And I know pretty much everybody here in the room for one reason or another. And this is a great group of people. This is a great collaboration. And we had the Courageous Conversations meeting, if you remember last year. And one of the things that came out of that is we needed to do a better job, quite frankly, of communicating with the community. And we also looked at what could help us grow as a city. And that's not just the police making decisions, but collaborating and having folks come to us with their ideas of what are the problems within the city that they see and coming up with realistic solutions. So because of that, that's why we're here, and thank you for your service for the cause. So the slides that we're going to go over today briefly are going to be why an advisory board and what is the purpose of the advisory board. What's the role of the Citizens Advisory Board, the recommendations, that are leading up to a policy that we developed. And when we talk about the policy of it, it's basically a model policy that we pulled. It works really well for some agencies that have been doing this for a really long time. And we did make some adjustments to it to fit our needs. And collectively, when we discuss that, there'll be a period of time where I'm going to ask each one of you for your input, questions, comments, concerns about that policy. Is there something we can do or change, or any input that you may have? And while we're on that discussion, we need to establish term limits. So you'll see that when we go over the policy that it'll say that the recommendation for a board is that we have members that serve 1 year, 2 year, and 3 year terms. And the purpose is so that we have continuity, right, of the board. And we're going to ask for folks tonight to be volunteers to serve either a 1 year, 2 year, or 3 year term. And then through the rules, it explains that there are also an avenue there for you to request an extension up to 2 years. So we'll go over all of that. That's when we're going to open up about the questions or comments or concerns with the policy. And then finally, we'll get into a discussion so we can really start getting into the meat and potatoes of the purpose of this board. And that's to make a difference in our community. And what do we want to focus on for our next meeting? So the next slide, we're talking about why have an advisory board. You're going to see at the top of a few of these slides the International Association of Chiefs of Police. I've been a member of it for a long time. And they have a lot of folks, from attorneys to chiefs that have been in large departments. Everybody, there's a lot of input that goes into a lot of model policies. And it also talks about as a lot of you in this room have probably heard me discuss the task force on 21st century policing. And when I interviewed for this position, that was one of the things that we highlighted as my plan moving this department forward, because they identified the things that can make you have a successful, healthy community and department. And those are the things that, the 21st Century Policing Task Force talks about. It's the strategies to improve trust between law enforcement and the public. And right now, if you look around the country, trust has been eroding for years. And that's not something that we want. We want to build real, solid, true, trust-based relationships with our community. And the only way you can do that is by having collaborative efforts in groups of community. We don't have to agree, but we certainly need to have everybody have a seat at the table to have input. And so this is something that was recommended in the task force for 21st century policing. And we've been working on this for a while, keep in mind. And one of the things it talks about is, you can't just go and throw it together. You kind of got to be prepared. You got to find the right people. You got to have your policies in place. We were doing certain things to get us to a point where we could truly focus on this. And I think now we're doing it, as this says up here, in a thoughtful and purposeful meaning, so that we can make true difference. And I guess that's the ICP's version. To me, I guess to make it short, the purpose for creating this board is to build and foster trust-based relationships, improve transparency, reduce crime, address quality of life issues, because, I think every one of us in here have different versions of quality of life issues. And police departments truly focus mainly on life safety issues is the primary purpose of every law enforcement agency. And you get so busy focusing on those, sometimes other things might fall to the side. And I'm hopeful that the board can give us some direction and focus and find solutions and suggestions to help us make good decisions collectively. And then we all can support that decision, right? Because sometimes the best laid out plans, right, don't work out the way we hope, and they have negative consequences. So we need to be together when we make a decision. And next, the role, right? The role of the Citizens Advisory Board. And it's defined, and I think it's important to provide a definition, when you're talking about what we are, what we're going to be doing. And it's a group of individuals appointed for the purpose of examining a public issue or a set of issues who meet over an extended period and develop alternative solutions and new ideas through a comprehensive interaction. And we're going to have a lot of interaction, right? Hopefully, that's the whole purpose. So a Citizens Advisory Board is expected to represent the interest of the public, not our own self-interest. We're here collectively, and folks on this board and those that aren't here are spread out through the entire city. And we want to represent our entire city, east side, west side. Politics have no place, no business in this room, and that's the thing that we want to bring to the table here. And so we are hoping to address a myriad of issues, and this board is going to be asked to conduct research, generate new ideas or solutions, provide informed recommendations on public policies and practices. But I want to be clear of what the Citizens Advisory Board is not, and it should not be a policy-making board. Obviously, people like myself, police executives, our job, we can't be compromised. We have to make the decisions based on our policies and based on laws. And a Citizen Advisory Board can be a critical component to establishing an open culture between a public agency and a community. Truly, you can always say we should have started this years ago or last year, but there's no place like getting started now. We start right now, we can make a difference moving forward. And so these are some recommendations leading up to the policy, right? So that you have a little bit of understanding about the recommendations made by the International Association of the Chiefs of Police. And the police executives and elected officials should decide upon the amount of authority that a board will have, right? And while remaining open to the importance of having citizen input and oversight, effective government is based on trust. Central tenet of citizen advisory boards should be to build trust and two-way communication. I'm going to go back again. One of the things that we're doing a ton, and there's a lot of stuff probably folks in this room don't even know that we've done or that we're doing, and that's where we need to do a much better job. And truly, I'm hoping that we can get that information out through this board, stakeholders in the community, all throughout the city, and you can take that back, and we're working to do a better job with transmitting some of those positive programs and initiatives that we have going on. And that's another very positive thing that this board can do for the community that we serve. And obviously, we need to have a diverse board. We need to represent the true reflection of the community. And there are a few other folks that I'm still trying to look into that make recommendations that we can have join our board. We may have 9 or 10 people on this board by the time it's said and done. But it's important to have everyone, every culture, every dialect, every race, every sex to be represented. And so we're going to continue to move forward on that and ask for suggestions and input from this collective board as well. And finally, this next slide is where we're going to start to cover some of those rules. And you guys received the proposal, right, or that we're gonna go
Yes.
over? And is there anyone that feel that we need to go over the entire policy and rule, or just hit some highlights from that so we can get into our discussions, or?
I'm okay with highlights.
Yeah.
Chief, my suggestion would be at some point, and I'm not sure how far this is into your presentation.
Yeah.
But one of the rules that we should focus on is term limits.
Yes,
If we're going to establish that we're going to have 9 members, including myself, or if I'm going to be the 10th member, then we'll, I'm going to make a suggestion that we, start out with 3, 3, and 3, 3 one-year terms, 3 two-year terms, and 3 three-year terms, until such time as we add to that. I suggest 3 three-year terms on the basis that would give a core, so to speak. We could draw it by lots, or we could have volunteers. I'd like to do it in an orderly way, but that's, I don't know where that is in your presentation, but that's one thing that I think we should spend time on specifically.
it is. It's a matter of fact, that was one of the things that we touched on. As soon as we go through this, the last thing, really, towards the last page of this, where you'll see where it talks about term limits, that's where we were going to get into that. And you're absolutely right. I'm in agreement with it anyway, and we'll cover that. So this is just it's a set of rules. And by the way, unless anybody has any difference of opinion, I'm going to make a recommendation to the city manager, mayor, and to Dan after tonight's meeting, and maybe we can talk about it. I'm not real crazy about the name of it. Once again, we needed to get something started. It's Police Chiefs Advisory Board, but truly, it's really a Police Chiefs Community Advisory Board. And I've referred to community throughout some of these different things, because to me, that's truly what it is. So we can have a part of that discussion later as we get into the next slide. So the policy, right? The policy of the Seaford Police Department is to establish and maintain the Chiefs Advisory Board. The goal of the advisory board is to provide a forum for police community interaction to address public safety and related issues in order to further enhance the quality of life in our community. And in doing so, cops like acronyms, right? It's the way we are. So in doing so, the Chiefs Advisory Board shall reinforce established values under the respect concept. And when I got hired, I like to make up words or acronyms, because it's easy to remember when you can take those. Those words don't change. It's just where you place them, right? So there's no specific set, priority over these words. But to me, these aren't just words. These truly do mean a lot. And we have to have this in the community. We have to have it in this room, and just in general. Relationships, ethical practices, safe community, that's what we all want, is a safe community. Partnerships, that's just collaboration. That's why we're doing what we're doing. Equality, we were at a meeting, and there was some talk, and I think that's one of the reasons we're in this situation that we're in today, is everyone wants to be equal. We want to have equality in our community, in our businesses, in our life. And crime reduction. No one wants to have an area that we live in that's dangerous. And I know we've spoke many times. Tessa lives in an area that's had some unfortunate incidents. No one should have to be scared to walk out their door at any time, day or night. And we want to focus on those types of issues. And transparency. And I don't think we can get much more transparent than having this board here, live stream, open to the public, and we're going to continue to have these meetings. This is not just a one and done. This is a long-term investment. And the purpose of this board, it was established under the mayor and council on March 9th, under my recommendation, but in collaboration with the council and the city manager. We all agree it's very important. I think the community agrees. And there's not very many agencies right now that have created a true sense of a formal board that's open to the public, having an agenda published in advance, having minutes taken, live streamed. I mean, that's important. That's true transparency. And so this board was created to act as a community resource, right? in the formation of strategies, development of community resources for the chief, and the formation of strategy to develop community policing concepts. Right now, and it's intentional, I didn't create a community policing policy updated from what it was many, many, many years ago. Because I can create a policy, but it might not necessarily meet the expectations of the community. And I don't want to keep doing those types of things without community input. So I'm hoping at some point we can pull some model policies from the International Association, from the Chiefs Council, and from some different departments around, and collectively maybe we can craft, for lack of a better term, something that truly fits our community needs with input from all the stakeholders here. So we'll have not just a philosophy throughout our entire department, which is what we've implemented, but we'll have a policy for them to follow to give them guidelines, right? So that's some of the things, quality of life issues, life safety issues we're going to talk about after a while. That's the purpose of this board. The rotating membership, this is what Dan was talking about. Right now, it's 7 to 9 people. I can foresee us going maybe, to 10 people, because we have such a large community, such a very diverse community, different expertise, and I want people from every community here. So it could grow a little bit as long as everybody's in agreement with it when we have those conversations. Board members' roles, and it's not limited to these things, right? These are just some guidance for us. Act as a sounding board for the department, for the chief of police, regarding community needs and concerns, as well as community response to proposed police programs and priorities. And those programs could be anything. Those programs could be what we're starting now as neighborhood watch programs. Lieutenant Chris Miller is bringing that back. He's already coordinated with all the HUD housing complexes. I believe the first meeting starts, if not this week, next week, with every community from Chandler Heights and Meadowbridge, Seaford Apartments, every strong community that we have, that we're having similar problems. We want to help those communities, and also other communities like Pine Street, right? Because we've had some issues on Pine Street, and different streets, whether it might be Bel Air or wherever. If folks want to start a neighborhood watch program, we want to help give them the guidance and direction, because cops can't do it alone. We can't solve all the problems of the community, and those that were in the courageous conversations understand that. It's a partnership, true collaboration. We can make a heck of a difference together, but just cops doing it, it's very difficult. Apprise the chief of police directly of community need and for police services. I think we have a collective group of folks that do a good job. Tessa does a great job, and Pastor Cannon and Pastor Ross, and the list goes on. Pastor Davis, Jeff, that's not here tonight. So we appreciate those partnerships. Assist in educating the community at large about the function and role. So we may get into some discussions about what our true function and role is, so we all understand it. Persons in crisis, mental health is a huge, huge ordeal right now, and we've done some things that folks aren't aware of, creating policies for response for persons in crisis and things of that nature, to give guidance to officers. We've been partnering up with different agencies. There's a lot of things we'll talk about once we get going in the board, but that requires collaboration and partnerships with other agencies and folks. Attend meetings, so it's important. I know that we have 2 people. We knew in advance that Jeff wasn't going to be here. So, if somebody from the board can't make a meeting, it's important to let us know so that it can be quote unquote approved, right? Because if we have folks that don't show up, they're not contributing, it might lead to the removal of someone from the board. And that's not to say because you miss a meeting, right? It's just reoccurring, because you got to have someone that truly wants to engage. And just so you know, our next meeting will be May 20th. This is the inaugural meeting to get the introductions, the rules, answer questions, come up with a topic that we're going to focus on for the next meeting. And then the proposal is, after May 20th, to have quarterly meetings. And we can discuss that and see what the collective group feels. Is that enough? Is that too much? I don't think it's too much, but that's a conversation that we can have.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
I'd rather make my mistakes in crime.
The member selection criteria. So, this came from a much larger agency that's been doing this for many, many, many years. But the more I read it, we tailored it for ourselves, and I think it kind of hits, and we can have the conversation about changes if we need it. But this selection was done by the mayor. So what I did was I provided him with everybody that attended the Courageous Conversations meeting. Because that's, folks came out to that. That was in the evening. It was a big deal, I think. The U.S. Attorney's Office was there. We had a really good moderator and really good feedback, communication. And I think that was really the beginning, truly, of what catapulted this for us. So we selected members. The mayor appointed those members, council, and for their professionalism, their integrity, their commitment to our community. Every one of you are very committed. That's why you're here. The board's first chairperson, the best person for the job to start this is Dan. He's vice mayor, council member. He's on boards. He's been serving the city for many years. And we got to make sure that we follow protocol, right? Everything that we do is FOIA, right? We have to make sure that we run, take the minutes, put the agendas out, and we run it appropriately and have votes if necessary. So, and then from Dan, after a year, we can decide collectively who we want to be the next chair of the board. The chief or elected chairperson will lead the chief's advisory board meetings upon the completion of the first year. I'm not particularly, I don't necessarily have to be the next person to lead it. It could be the judge, or it could be Tessa, or whoever next time. So adult members may serve. This is where we talked about, and Dan talked about, the 1 year, 2 year, and 3 year terms. Any student members, because originally I had intention of trying to have a student member here, because I think it's important to include the youth, because they're going to be the future of our communities. It's unfortunate with COVID and everything, and kids that we had selected are going away to college and things, so that might be something that we can come back another time. But I still think it's extremely important at some point to put a member from the high school or a young adult in the board. The students can serve for a period of 2 year term. This is Dan. This is where we talked about a third of the board serving 1 year, a third serving 2, and a third serving 3 years. The mayor, chief of police, or majority vote of the advisory board may elect to remove members for just cause. This is where we talked about if somebody's not getting, making notification that they can't make it, and regularly missing appointments, or not being productive part of the board. Collectively, this group could decide to replace them. And I don't see anybody in here that would happen to. So some of the other things we talked about, be a city of Seaford, items in bold. So what we were looking at people to be residents of Seaford, members of businesses, community in the city of Seaford, both large or small businesses, be from a community hospital, chamber of commerce, Seaford School District, criminal justice. Somebody like Judge Mulvaney's a retired judge. He has a background in law that's very helpful sometimes with the things that we do. Local community-based social service organizations. I partner with a lot of different nonprofits, and the city of Seaford is very fortunate to have a large group of folks that they have volunteering and doing a lot of things. And I've only listed but a few, right? And may not hit the ones specifically that are here, but child protection, behavioral health, and homeless advocates, because we need to address our homeless issues. Behavioral health, because we have a lot of persons in crisis in the city. Drug and alcohol services, that's important to have a healthy community. Interdenominational, faith-based. I think we got the faith-based covered here in this group. I'd like to see diverse community organizations. People from LGBTQ, Anti-Defamation League, NAACP. The more differences that we bring to the table, the better off we are. And these are just some suggestions. We may not have everybody collectively from those different groups or organizations, but those are things that we're looking for. Different people with different backgrounds, with different expertise and different ideas, right? And different contacts. It's important. Staff support, I do want to thank Tracy Torbert for taking the minutes, and the group, Tricia and Sierra for running all of this today, and provide administrative support for us. She'll push the minutes out, so you guys will be getting copies of agendas, getting copies of minutes in advance, every 7 days in advance typically of a meeting. And that's kind of the rules. And before we start opening it up for those questions, comments, concerns, anything that we want to do with this rules, this is where I think Dan's right now. We need to probably go ahead and let's establish our terms. who would like to do what, a third, and a third. And then, once again, you always have the option to make a request for an extension up to 2 years. So whether you're a 1-year, 2-year, or 3-year term member. And Dan, would you like to take it from there, and we can have a vote on that, or whatever you would
Well,
normally do?
what I'd like to do is open it up for some comment. I would like to establish some general rules. I very much like to have this committee or this board run on a, not on Robert's rules per se, but we want to maintain order. If you would, more on an informal basis, and out of respect for each other, I want to make sure everybody's heard and everybody gets to be recognized, but please indicate with a raise of your hand and you'll be recognized. I don't want people talking over each other. Let's let everybody finish their thought, and then I'll recognize the next person. So with that, I would like to ask for comment on the rules as they stand now. Does anybody have any input on the way the rules? We'll deal with the term limits, but does anybody have any questions? If there are no questions, well, then we'll resolve the term limit idea. I put forth an idea of, there's 8 board members at this point, so if we have 3 1-year terms, 3 2-year terms, and 3 3-year terms, that leaves an opening for another board member. Is there any discussion on that? If there's no further, or if there's no discussion, then I'll go further. Then we seek volunteers for these positions and these terms, and I will be the first to volunteer for a 2-year term. My term as councilman ends in 2 years, so I can't volunteer for a 3-year term when I don't know what my future is going to be. So I will volunteer for the 2-year term. So do I have any other thoughts or?
I was thinking 2-year term for myself. I just accepted a 5-year term with the Seaford as a board member for the Seaford Library. So that'll be right in the middle of that term, and I'll know. So if it could be extended, great, but I'll know more.
Okay. So we have 2 volunteers for 2-year terms. We have vacancies.
Could I make a suggestion
Yes.
as well? Since we have 2 folks that aren't here and really can't vote, how about we, for right now, because they can always make a request, right, to extend Florence and Jeff to have those do 1-year term, and then they can always make a recommendation or a request. Does anybody, since they're not here, they can't really, unless you want to go through and see how we make it.
Unless somebody here wants a 1-year term.
Well, I agree. I agree generally, but they're not here to speak for themselves. So I would give preference to the folks who are present, who are here, and then see where it falls. If Jeff and the pastor fall in the 1-year term, then that we'll give them their opportunity, but I think first choice ought to be to those that are present.
You can plug me in anywhere. I'll let
I'm
Let the
between the
ladies
2
pick.
and the 3-year term, just because I want to be committed, to what I'm doing here, because I love our city and I love my neighborhood, and I just want to see us, be all we can be as a city to all people. And so I'm between the 2 and the 3, so I can fit in wherever I need to do that.
I think I would recommend or request a 2-year, only because I would give that opportunity for the residents for the 3-year term. Now, I'm not sure if you're looking at a 2-year, 3-year, 1-year, 7-year.
I was,
No,
I was
ma'am.
thinking she was thinking
Lifetime
4 or
rights.
5. Yeah,
No.
that's what I saw.
No and no. To be honest, I would like to do the 1 year with the possibility of an extension. Let me just share why. Part of that is because I'm part of a denomination that yearly we could be moved. And so I don't want to say I can truly commit when I do not have the authority over whether or not I pastor the church that I pastor. And so if I'm given an opportunity, then probably I will ask for the extension. But again, that's up for, debate. But while I'm here, I choose to serve for that 1 year. Not 7 or 4.
I'll do 3. The only thing that slow me down would be health, but I don't see any problem there.
We'll drive you here, Judge. I know where you live.
That's right.
So, I think we've heard from everyone, and there are no conflicts at this point. So we have a vacancy, well, we have 2 vacancies in the 1 year, and we have a vacancy in the 3 year. So, per your request, Chief, if you wanted to allow the Jeff and Florence, the first year terms, there is a 3-year term that would be vacant, and that could be a business item for the next meeting if they elected to take a 3-year term. I think that's equitable, and I'd be happy to hear from the rest of the board.
So can I ask a question? So you were saying that if we put them in the spot of 1 year, at our next meeting, they have the choice to change it if they want and ask to be in the 1 vacancy that says for 3 years?
Since there is a vacancy and they can't speak for themselves, I think that would be fair.
Okay.
If you're agreeable.
Agreed.
You know,
I
agree
am.
with
I just wanted them to have the opportunity to say where they really want it to be and be committed to that.
Yes.
Even though we may be placing them in 1 year for now, I wanted them the opportunity to move if they wanted to.
Well, if you want to take that further, we could elect not to place them and have their choices
When they return.
May 20th?
at the next meeting. So we're not placing them somewhere, that they would have the choice of the other 3 vacancies. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, I think I'm more comfortable with that and letting them
Okay.
speak for themselves.
Very good. All right, so I think that business is pretty well squared up. So we have pastor, or is it reverend?
It's Tisha.
Tisha, okay. Tisha, we have Tisha, who has volunteered for a 1-year term. In the 2-year term slots, myself, the chair, Desiree, and Kim. And for the 3-year term, we have Debbie and Bill, and a vacancy there. And we have 2 vacancies in the 1-year terms. So we'll set that, and what I'll do is ask for a motion to accept the rules as they are written, with the modification of the term limits to install the members to their voluntary terms. So with that, I'll accept the motion for further discussion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any further discussion? I'll ask for a second.
Second.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the yeas and nays. Would you like a roll call? Or just, we'll just, all in favor of accepting the rules as written, along with the terms as described, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? There are none opposed and no one abstained, so we have all present voting yes. Thank you very much for your vote. So, having had the rules adopted, and Tracy, just keep in mind for an old business item that we should take care of old business before new business for the next meeting, that we elect to, we give the members who aren't present an opportunity to elect their terms. Thank you. Chief, have you anything else before we move on to the next topic?
Before I move to the next slide, I just want to ask one more time, does anybody have any questions or comments, any concerns about anything so far? Before we get into the discussion on the topics, the meat and potatoes of what we really want to start working on? If not,
One more, if I could interject one other thing. I'd like to get contact information put together so that every member has each other's contact information so that we can contact each other.
I do have one question and a comment. Is this board allowed to meet outside of this setting? So if we wanted to go sit somewhere and, talk about some things, or are we just to communicate among ourselves in this type of setting?
As a public body, we cannot meet in a quorum. You can meet socially,
Right.
but
Okay.
you cannot meet and undertake business, board business, for that purpose.
so if we do, but correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, if you have any questions or comments or any concerns in between meetings or anytime, individually, you can certainly email me, but we can't do a group email. Is that correct, Dan? It's just
Well, we
individually?
can't do anything actionable.
Yeah.
No.
You cannot do anything actionable. Now, you can contact members individually, but not serially.
Okay.
You know, do you
Yeah,
understand what I mean?
I do.
So, if you have a question or you want to talk about a topic, or it's just not something. It's not a secret vote. It's just you can discuss an issue individually with a member. However, it's not for the purpose of gaining a vote or voting on a particular issue.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay. Please continue.
All right. So here we are, discussion topics. So I had a lot of bullets before, and I took them out underneath of each of the categories. I just threw these up as some examples for topics. Everyone in the board received a copy of the community survey that Del State University did. We are hoping to do another community survey. I'm hoping to do like a much broader survey at the end of the year. So hopefully what we do now, moving towards the end of the year, we can see some progress on some of the concerns that were noted in the survey and some of the recommendations. And we can certainly talk about some of the things that we've done already in that direction. So we can focus on the things within that survey, or life safety issues or concerns that the board may have, or quality of life issues within the city, traffic safety issues. I mean, there's a myriad of issues that you could come up with, and I'd like to ask for suggestions from the board.
Am I the only one that had difficulty opening that document? it's some items cut off on the side. Is it just me? Because I did not open it on my computer. Yes,
I didn't seem to have any trouble with it myself.
thank you. I never had time to do.
So just to explain it a little bit, what it looks like, Dr. Dillard did, she had some interns the night of the Courageous Conversations meeting, and they handed out surveys to that group, and then through Pastor Ross and Unified Seaford, they did another group, and I'm not sure if they were able to reach out. I gave them a different list of different nonprofits, but I believe it pretty much predominantly was assisted by Pastor Ross and Unified Seaford group, because that group is all throughout the city, I believe. And we didn't have a great turnout, it doesn't look like. I had nothing to do with it because I wanted it to be completely, I don't want to have any input in it. I wanted them to do it, get true answers back. That's how we're going to make a difference, is to get the input. So when you see in there, they break it down, courageous conversations and community, just so you know.
Is there any other input on the 4 topics, or does anyone have a different topic that they would like to explore for the next meeting?
It would be nice on that survey to make it more far-reaching.
That was the intent of it. I
Yeah.
think what happened was with them, they had intended to take their interns from Dell State University and do door-to-door like they did in Dover and Wilmington, but coronavirus really hindered that.
Yeah.
So they were hindered in what they were doing. So the goal is to come back the end of the year and have Dell State do it again, and have, with this collective group here, I think we can get it out to a much broader group of the community. Yeah. And 21st Century Policing Task Force recommendation is that departments partner with colleges and universities. And just for the group's knowledge here, that's what we did with Courageous Conversations, but also we have partnered with them with an intern. We've had an internship for a long time now. Kevin was one of the interns. Young man, he's Dell State, plays football. He's going to graduate in May with his CJ. Yeah, I already tried to recruit him. He's a fantastic young man. We had him out on the range with us today. He helped unload food from the other day with Love Inc. We had 3 officers out there, plus Kevin helping. He was a tremendous help. He's all in on the community engagement, and that's another partnership that we did there. And we're working really hard to build those partnerships too, because those types of partnerships are going to help us have a better, diverse department too, more reflective of our community. And that's probably something that a large mass of the population doesn't know. We do a lot. We just, once again, I'm hoping this board can help us get the word out of what we're doing, open for suggestions. And I don't think we can focus on everything up here. I think we really need to narrow our scope so that we can make a true impact on whatever it is that collectively you feel is the biggest issue that this group can solve. That's just my input. And I'm not saying which one I think is important, but I just want to.
Maybe you'd like to share with the other members before the meeting started our discussion about some of the traffic issues.
Yeah, so I can tell you that traffic safety concerns throughout the city, it's just everywhere, right? I don't care if it's on Pine Street, in that quadrant in there, you've seen that we've reduced the speed limits. That's going to go into effect on the 26th. And, I've heard some comments and seen things, but it is, at the end of the day, our idea was just to improve safety of our community members. We have a lot of children, a lot of population in those areas. That's probably one of the most narrow roads in the city, more narrow than Magnolia, and it's been 15 miles an hour forever. But when you draw a geographical boundary around Magnolia and Bel Air and that whole quadrant over there, less than half the amount of collisions and problems that we were having over on Pine in that whole general area there. And so we want people to be safe. When we went out there to run unconventional enforcement for radar, it looks like they were going twice as fast. That was a big complaint, the perception, right? Perception is reality, right? So but the reality of it was we had brand new LiDARs that looked like binoculars. We had folks on bicycles that you really didn't know were cops. And the average speed was about 25 miles an hour. But it looked like they were going twice as fast as they should. And so the studies show that 85% of people, right, tend to try to comply with the speed limit. The other 15 go about 10 miles an hour over. And you can't be everywhere in the city all at one time. And we've had complaints of people running wrong way on streets because they used to cut through some businesses that have now put up gates. So now there might be this off-shot chance of somebody going the wrong way, which creates a traffic safety concern. Traffic's picked up on the west side of town where the speed limit, what goes to 40, I believe, isn't it, Judge?
Goes to 40 just past PNC Bank.
Yeah, just past PNC.
And they're doing about 60 when they hit this
Yeah,
Sussex Avenue light.
And just so you know, we did put our signboards out there on the one side, and the average speed was within range. Unfortunately, probably decided it was the fastest. This brand-new $6,000 speed board we got wouldn't capture the numbers. We're trying to capture numbers and run radar, and they see cops, they slow down, right? So we're going to continue to work on that through a different method to try to see if we need to reduce the speed there and keep it the same speed all the way out of town, especially now that Amazon's coming, traffic's going to pick up. Can anticipate potentially the potential for more crashes, more speeding complaints, more traffic safety issues.
Plus the schools there now, too.
And
There's two
out west of
schools.
town, you have a school now. So the other thing is, we've had some complaints here recently and concerns over by Chandler Street, the traffic light there, because of the cycling of that light, and that could be due to construction where they might have changed the cycle from ground to traffic light, or however, the timing of it is just off. And even here recently, I think the mayor mentioned something about High Street light was having some issues with the timing. We have no control of those lights on Stein Highway. That's DelDOT, so we're working with DelDOT through Public Works, through the city. I think Pastor Ross has mentioned Wolfer Street having some concerns. I mean, it's just all over Bel Air, Magnolia,
It's
everywhere.
everywhere.
And so we can't be everywhere. We only have but so many people. We have if not the highest, one of the highest in the entire county of calls for service. We don't have the officers to do everything all at one time. So we have some programs that we're getting ready to incorporate, some initiatives that should have a big impact on traffic complaints. And not just traffic complaints, but people running stoplights, people running stop signs, people going the wrong way. We're worried with the summer coming, more people getting out, and we're about pedestrians, right, getting struck. Had complaints even over on folks stopping in front of connections. That creates public safety, traffic safety issue because of pedestrian. So we're working in partnership. We've reached out, and they've done a good job by getting their security guy to come out and help move people on, and we've been out there too, moving them on. At some point, the education and the engagement is going to go away, and the enforcement's getting ready to kick in. At some point, sometimes the ticket might be the only thing that might slow folks down, and so that's coming if necessary. So that's the traffic safety concerns, and it's everywhere in the city. And I know the judge has been talking about it on his side for a while, and the east side has its problems too.
Well, everybody on this board sees it on a daily basis. A red light is a suggestion.
So,
Nobody is stopping at red lights. I've seen so many people blow red lights all
Yeah.
up and down Stein Highway
yeah.
for months now. And it's just like, just ignore it and hope nobody's coming the other way.
I will say this in counter of it, police, we focus on where the problems, speeding is a problem, don't get me wrong, but when we draw Crime View, we can put self-defined boundaries. We don't have the crashes to support a lot of stuff
That's right.
over there, right? The crashes were occurring in the areas that we're focusing on. That doesn't make it any less dangerous because sometimes they can still happen. But when we're looking at traffic safety, life safety issues, I'm looking in areas like North and Collins, because of some of the things that's occurred. So we have some initiatives going on, and we're asking for support of the community. We've sent letters out recently to change parking signs, right? From 10 p.m. at night to sunrise to sunset to sunrise. It just makes good sense because the only people parking on the north side of the road are folks at the park. Park closes at sunrise. And we have all of those folks, unfortunately, that live right there that have to deal with loud noise and trash every day, being thrown on the ground, folks that live there, going out and picking up the trash, even though we'll send a sweeper out there, because we can't move them along if they're not committing a crime. And the problem is when you get a large group of people together, the noise, right? Noise ordinance is at 9, but yet they can still park till 10. It serves no legitimate purpose to have folks parking there till 10 o'clock at night. And I think on Purnell forward towards north is probably the heaviest populated. And guess where a lot of our shootings have occurred? right? So we have to address this. That's life safety issues. Loitering, trash, weapons, disorderly conduct, fights. People get scared, and we need to address that. So I think you kind of know where I'm going, and when we look at the survey, where's the survey talk about, right?
Same place.
So that's not saying that we can't have maybe 2 initiatives to talk about what we make recommendations for. We already have things in the works to try to work with the community there, and we're going to continue that. But I want this group here. I don't want to be the person saying we need to do this or we need to do that. I want you guys to try to guide us in which way. We're going to continue to do what we need to do, life safety-wise and traffic. But if there's something specific, some solution, some suggestion, anything like that, we're asking for your input.
So, these are 4 very important topics. If there's another topic that you'd like discussed, I think we ought to take a bite at these one at a time because they're so important. And I think our business here tonight should be to rank them. And possibly, if there's something else that you would like to have studied or talk about or bring up an idea, possibly a 5th item. And then we'll rank them so that we can give some sense of order and some way to help the chief plan for some of this research and some of this stuff, and for us to plan and research our own things on these topics. So I'd like to hear some suggestions about how to rank these issues.
I have a suggestion for an additional topic. In light of what's going on in our country, maybe a way to, and I don't really know how to phrase it, like police perception, public relations, image, that kind of thing,
Yep.
positively,
I like that.
I think is key at this point.
Would that fall under the heading of community policing?
I think so, and I think that if that kind of leads me into what we talked about earlier, where I really would love this board to help focus on developing a community policing policy to help give direction for the officers for the whole philosophy through the whole department of how we're going to do our community policing. Just so you know, you will see a lot more this year because our staffing, though it's not at 100%, it's the best it's been since I've been here just recently. And so we're using some grant funding a little differently this year. You're going to see the increased foot patrols, the increased bike patrols, not just on High Street, but it will be on High Street. We're going to be using unconventional enforcement to address some of the traffic safety issues. So just because we may not pick a topic doesn't mean we're not already working to address all of these issues. But perception,
To the public.
image.
I'm
is
talking about.
extremely important. We truly do want to be part of the community, not apart from the community. And I'm going to give you an example. Patrolman Dice, right? Ben Dice is a young man. He lives on Pine Street in the area, general facility of that area there. He grew up here essentially.
You mean
And,
Bernardin?
pardon?
Is that-
Bernardin.
Okay, you call him Ben, I ain't know who
Well,
that was.
he goes by Ben Nice because he's so nice, you know. But yeah, he pulled in. I'm going to give you an idea what we deal with and how the perception from police and perception from community can clash. And oftentimes it keeps us apart. And it takes initiative. It takes courage, right? And so Ben pulled into Chandler Heights, and there was a lot of obscenities being shouted towards Ben about the police. And you can only imagine some of the words. So what does Ben do? I'm really proud of this kid. He stops and does what I expect for community policing. Regardless of the rhetoric, he stops and gets out and talks to the group of people and asks them why they feel that way. And the statement was, have you not been watching the TV? And Ben was like, well, that's not our community. That's not our police department. Whether they did something right or wrong, he understands. But, you know, we're here. We're doing the right thing. And before he left that development, Chandler Heights, the kids were talking to him. that makes a difference, right? Because you have to start somewhere, and that's all about the 21st century policing model. Getting out of the car, establishing communications, even if it's difficult, and getting to know one another to build trust-based relationships. Until you get trust and build relationships, it's hard to get respect and it's hard to trust one another. So that's the type of philosophy that we're trying to push through the department. And, you know, if you've noticed too, I want to point out there that we have a much more diverse department than we've ever had. We have 3 different languages, you know, bridging languages with our community. And it's extremely important because there's a lot of victims that don't get service because they hang up when they call a language line before you get somebody there. Do they get service? They could be rape victims, domestic violence victims. And now we have folks that we can truly help the community to service more victims because at the end of the day, it's all about service, right? And I rode past a group of people following our bikes home at our last bike rodeo out at Fred Douglass last year, the late summer. Remember we did a bike rodeo West Seaford, we did one East Seaford. And 2 of the individuals were riding bikes, I'm following behind them in the purple car. And then there was a group out on North Street, and some obscenities got shouted. I had the window down, I slowed down and I waved. And some people actually made some positive comments, and some made some not so nice comments. But I'm following behind them because it's getting kind of dark. And that's unfortunate, right? So that just shows that we have to do a better job once again. Somebody's got to do it. Someone's got to start. And we talked about doing some patrols on foot with community members. That shows that we're partnered up. Because I think so many people that are not doing the right thing think that community's not going to, you know, be a part with the police department to say what happened or to be a witness. And quite frankly, that's been true on a couple of our incidents because they don't feel safe. And I think that's part of a trust relationship. And I'm hoping that this board here can help us bridge that gap with the trust. And we need to get back out and do more of those types of things. And that's what the goal is this year, to do a much better job. And our young officers are all about it. And that's a difference. That's a culture change, right? And change agent. And that's what we're doing within the department.
So is that a different topic, or does that fall under one of the ones that have already been established?
I think what you said is extremely important. I think that's part of a community policing policy. That's the image, the branding. Yeah. And we didn't put that on there. I didn't put the community policing policy on there, but I think that's important.
Yeah, the police interface with the public, I think it should be a different topic, or, thank you, Desi.
That could be something that we could maybe work in with another topic. I don't know.
Well, from the standpoint of community policing, there's programs and things that initiatives you have that you would like to have accomplished, and we should, I think you should let the board know about those plans for community policing. Some of your, for instance, multiple events rather than one police night out, just have them in neighborhoods and other things that we've discussed like that.
I think Dara made some recommendations. Was it Dara or somebody made a recommendation about doing several events instead of just the one community policing event at our Courageous Conversations meeting there.
Yep.
And that's not a bad idea. And that's really what those bike rodeos are about.
It wasn't Dara. I don't think she was there.
She wasn't there? I'm trying to remember who it was. I thought it was her.
It wasn't me either.
Well,
People
I know-
get us
well,
mixed up so
I know,
much. It wasn't-
I know
it
what
wasn't
you
either.
said. I think you said we need to do a better job of communicating and somebody needs to get on that social media, but you said, it can't be me.
That's right.
Guess what we have on the board?
That's right.
And somebody brought this up just now too. I think we have a volunteer.
We have a fifth subject. Are there any other suggestions before we try and rank these topics so that we can come up with some new business for the next meeting? All right then. Well, let's try and rank them. We have 5 topics. I will suggest, since we have a board member that made a suggestion, that this could be our first item to talk about at the next meeting.
Can I make a different suggestion?
You may.
The only reason is that community survey was done, and I think it would give us a lot of insight of what our community has asked for and what we are looking at as their concern for them. I did go through the survey, so I did see the 60%, the 5% here, there, and everything.
Yep.
And so if we're going to advise on behalf of the community, we might want to know what they said. And I know it was a few people that were there, but it would be, I think it would be nice to at least tackle what they said and what they thought was a big concern for them. And then that way it might lead into the other things as well.
Sure. Is there any other input on that? That's a great suggestion. Thank you.
Well, I like the life safety part of it because that was the one thing that just stuck right out of that survey. Was people didn't feel safe.
I think that was like 60%.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
didn't
was way
feel-
up there.
Whether
Way
you
up
were East Seaford, West, 60%, I think, said
Yep.
they did not feel safe.
Well, I'm going to throw it out there that since this board serves the public and tonight's meeting is broadcast to the public, could we have some more information on the community survey at the
I
next
was
meeting?
just about to ask
That
if we
way-
could
We
create
can
another
go through it
survey.
if you like.
Well, this would be, yeah, for the next meeting,
Okay.
we would have it up, discuss it, and then that could be the springboard for further conversation on these other 4 issues. Because the public at large has not seen the community survey.
Right.
So-
Am I reading this that it's 47 people that answered this? Is that what I'm seeing?
If you add the two
21
together.
and 26?
Yes.
If we could create, Tracy, if we could create a Google Doc, I hate filling out paper surveys. A Google Doc and post it on social media and let people, why you look at me like that, Trish?
We have a survey account we create, like a survey monkey account.
Okay, something quick,
And it does the data collection.
awesome. If you could do that and post the link on social media regularly.
Or you guys could come up with some questions for the survey. You know, what do you think should be included?
Well, maybe that should be the next meeting then.
Well, I don't think we should not, I mean, I understand it's a small population that took the survey. And I think, it's just like we were saying, if we're here for the public, the ones that did take the survey,
Oh, I don't mean discount this.
okay,
I don't mean discount this, keep this.
Okay.
Because this is good data, but 47 people out of a whole city is not a good representation to me.
so are you saying take the same survey
Yeah,
and let's
yeah, yeah,
push
yeah,
that back
yeah,
out?
yeah,
So
the
there's no
same-
need to recreate questions and things like that?
And get more input, more data, and then I think we'll have a better cross-section of what people are thinking. Because, I mean, it could have been the same demographic of people that answered most of these surveys. So then you're going to get kind of the same answers.
I agree on
I
that.
don't disagree. I can tell you from doing the intelligence-led policing, the data, that of all of the quadrants, that's spot on. But I think you're right. I think that I was a little disappointed that we didn't get a much broader portion of our 8,000 residents, you know, so.
And are we
absolutely.
able to share from the city? Like if the city posts something, we can share it, right? I will share the heck out of it.
It's transparency.
Well, that's the whole point of us serving on the boards, because we each have different spheres of influence, and we all have an ability to reach. We have interconnecting rings of influence, so we can all do our part and reach other people. I will say, though, however, I think the results of the public survey should be separate from the
This.
results of that survey. That survey should stand on its own, and the other survey could be additive. And we would want to, we have a month to collect the data, and maybe it could be, the survey could be closed and you could have the results as a comparative to make sure that these answers, these answers on this survey were performed by attendees. Is that not right? Or
And
was
then
it
some
pushed
doors-
out?
Some of them were
Was
it
courageous
pushed out?
conversations.
Went out a little bit.
Not everybody answered the survey that night either.
I could
you know,
tell,
So the,
Yeah.
because it's paper, that's why.
the answers that you received from the survey were by well-motivated people.
Yeah.
And not to say that a public survey, won't, well-motivated people won't, but it may or may not, we'll be able to compare them,
Right.
what the different results are.
Oh, I think you're gonna get different results.
Yeah.
You're gonna get different results. But, I mean, I think it's important to poll more people.
Right.
Nope, I agree. And I would once again like to thank Dell State University, Dr. Dillard, for coming down and for bringing interns and investing her time and her department's time with putting this together.
And one other thing, can we make sure that this survey is not copyrighted so that we're not infringing on any intellectual property?
I can reach out to Dr. Dillard.
Or give them credit.
Right, well,
This
we'll
is their-
certainly want to do that, but if it's copyrighted material, I don't want to run afoul there. So, do I have a consensus that the community survey would be presented, and we'll make attempts to get the results of a independent survey, second survey for the next meeting?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay,
Yep.
I hear yays, so.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
so,
Does the city just do Facebook, or do you do Instagram too?
It pushes to Instagram, but primarily Facebook. And it would go on both the city and it would start from the police department. But yeah.
so the second, I had no dissent on making the community survey the first topic. So with that, with the results of this presentation, so to speak, we could rank the other four at the next meeting. So- Chief, do you have anything else to present tonight?
Just to say that we've covered the purpose, the role, the recommendations, the rules. Board's had an opportunity to have input, ask questions and comments. We've discussed our topics. So with that said, is there I could talk about, but the conclusion is, this is all for collaborative and community, initiatives. I won't read the power slide, and what we've done tonight speaks for itself. So is there any questions from anybody else on the board? And before we leave, like Dan said, if we could, we'll get a piece of paper or somehow get everybody's name, phone number, and address. I believe I pretty much have.
I think we have
everybody,
everyone's
except for
email
Ms.
address.
McGill.
But
Do you want us to just email you, Tracy?
yeah, if we could get a commitment from everyone to just email your primary, or your preferred contact method, and, a phone number and your email address, which I think we all have your email address, so. If, we have no old business, so I will give you the reminder that our next meeting will be held on Thursday, May 20th, 2021, right here at City Hall, starting at 7 p.m. If there are no further questions, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Can I just make a comment? Is
Yes.
Chief, I think this is a great start. And I want to commend you for stepping forward to make this. I think the initial meeting that we had that Del State came to, I was very excited about the effort that was put in place. And also the feedback that was given and how you have continued to follow up with what you said you would do. And also to listen to some of the community. I'm not the only person in the community, but the community has been speaking about whether or not the police are going to do what they have said they're going to do. And I think this is a major start in the right direction. And I'm thanking you and the department and even the mayor for moving forward with this. So thank you.
Thank you, Tisha. Are there any other comments before I accept the motion to close?
One question. You had mentioned concerning the youth being on the board. Is that like taken off the table, or
No.
just like we have that for the members if we've got some recommended youth that may can serve?
So I don't, I absolutely think it's important. I think the board is kind of growing, but I think that it's important to have that youth member. We had some folks in mind, and they either weren't able to do it, moving away for college or things of that nature. So, I mean, but it's not, at the end of the day, this is an elected or an appointed body by the mayor. So board can make a recommendation, we can present it through Dan to the mayor, and then the mayor could decide to appoint. I think having a youth perspective is important.
So with that being said, if you have, we're going to post an agenda at least 1 week prior to the meeting on the 20th. So on the 13th, that agenda will be published. So in the interest of giving staff time to compose the agenda and set it out, and myself and the chiefs, if you have a recommendation for youth or for another person to serve, I think we're about rounded out. I think we have room for one more, and we can discuss adding members. But if you have a recommendation, please forward it to me, and I'll make sure it gets to city staff and they can compose it for the mayor's appointment.
Yeah, because council next month is like the 11th. So
Yeah, so
It's not the same
the agenda for council would be May 4th. So I need to, if you can get your names in prior on that Monday, May 3rd, we can get that. Does that give you enough time?
So what has to happen is, it's an appointment by the mayor,
Yes.
so it has to be,
Well, we have to,
not to this
yeah,
meeting, but to a city council meeting.
Right.
we have to give him
So I was
enough
looking.
time. So, yeah, we would need to know fairly quickly, within the next week to 10 days, so that he could consider it and then make his choice and then post it on the agenda. Not his choice, but.
Right. I understand.
Well,
So
I
that-
was probably his choice because he's my classmate.
You're really young.
Yeah, I
You have
am.
my condolences.
For the future, that's just to go in for the main meeting, but,
Yeah, because council's like 9 days ahead of the next meeting.
Right.
It's the 11th.
that's just how the time goes.
Yeah.
So everybody knows, we have to post an agenda just like the school board, 7 days in advance.
Yes.
Yep.
So, any other questions? With that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So move, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I have a motion. I'll take a second.
I'll second it.
Tisha, thank you very much. We have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you,
All
everybody.
present are yes. Thank you so much for volunteering your time to this crucial work. thanks again, and I look forward to interacting with you all. And until we meet again, safe travels home.
Thank you.
Thank you.